irresistible, and that's how we move it. Yeah. Thank you, Black Eyed Peas, for writing such a great song that gets us started. Isn't it interesting that there's so much that we've learned in our lives, and I think a lot of times we can trace it back to just simply being willing to pause life, take a time out, learn something that we didn't know so that we can better ourselves. And in that realm, there's this ingredient that's really key. And it's, who knows what that is? What do we have to just learn anything?
Humility.
I think all of these are great. Curiosity, motivation, desire, all that is wonderful. But I've known a lot of people who have a lot of desire, and they still don't have this, and they still don't learn anything. And the key element is humility. It's to admit that we don't know it all. Frankly, folks, nobody knows everything about all things. At least not on this planet. Right? So this humility, embrace it. First of all, we're going to start off with a quarterly review. So this is time for you, if you're sitting together with your team, this is time for you to analyze how are you doing so far in the first quarter of 2017. All right, then we're going to pivot into improving our communication of the benefits of the tools that we offer. The next problem you're likely to have is, how do I communicate the value of the tool? So we must know the purpose or the reason or the why we have the tool in the first place, so we know where to use it. Because the better we are at that, we decrease objections, especially about commission. I've saved the best for last. You've heard me talk in sales meeting, a few of you, about making sense of data. And this is so critical today, to bring context to the content. And if you can't do that effectively, you have a hard time of illustrating your professional value. Therefore, you're minimized or you're pushed aside. So today, in 2017, it's really critical to make sense of data. So I have some exercises for us and an example of how to better do that. Does that sound like that might be valuable? Say aye. Aye. Good. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. Okay, everyone should have that handout. Everyone have it? Say yes? Yes. Okay, everyone right at the top of that page, first quarter 2017 in the blank. So last summer, in a scouting adventure, I joined about a half a dozen or so young men as we made our way up to what was supposed to be this beautiful, spectacular lake. I think it was impropriately named. I don't even remember the name of the lake, the real name, but I named it Lake Mosquito, because that would be a better way to describe the lake. So it was about 4.5 miles, and that was the shortest of the hikes that we could choose from. So off we went. We had our packs loaded up, food, bedding, water, and such. And off we went. And when we got started, the path was very, very, very easy to find. I mean, it even had a marker on it. It said, Lake Mosquito, 4.5 miles. and it was easy to see. Well, it traversed up its first peak as we kind of made our way, like, the lake's somewhere up there, and here we go. We got up to the first kind of vista, and what we saw was something about 10 years ago or so. There was a forest fire, and it knocked down a lot of the trees, and this grass and greenery was up yay high, and there was all this deadfall. As a matter of fact, it was as far as we could really see up into the mountain, it kind of almost disappeared. As far as we could see was this deadfall forest, and I mean massive trees like this. Now, we're probably about 1.5 miles in, and we're already feeling it, I mean, the excitement of let's go was kind of waning already, We're like, wow, this pack is pretty heavy. And the trail had started to disappear, and so we're like, oh, well, now where do we go? And I think all of us in the group were thinking something like, I don't want to carry this pack over all that deadfall, not knowing that I'm on the right path. So we started asking each other, does anyone see the path? I don't see the path. Do you see the path? I don't see the path. So we finally turned to Chris. He was carrying with him a GPS map, which was very valuable, especially in this moment. We're all like, you don't need a map. Come on, man up. We'll find our way. We can do this. 1 mile in, we're all exhausted. We're all panting. Hey, you got that map? Pull out that map. And so there we are looking at Chris going, hey, can you give us some guidance? Why am I telling you this? You're like,
because you went to the guy with the knowledge.
Okay. A knowledge of? Knowledge of?
How to get there.
Of where to get there? Shortest path? Most effective way? Aaron? Yeah, reviewing where we are. We're so far, we're a quarter of the way in. It's starting to get hard, more challenging. There's distractions. There's deadfall. It's heavy, right? All metaphors for life is coming at me really fast. It's an assembly line. All these people I got to call. All these things I got to do. I got under contracts. I got things I got to do. You know how often we hear this. You know, in coaching sessions, I sit down and say, hey, we got to hit pause. We got to time out. We got to better ourselves. Yeah, but I'm too busy. Yeah, I'm too busy to pause. You know, so we end up doing this, meandering our way to Lake Mosquito. You know, hoping that we can find it. And then, no surprise, I don't know if you've ever tried to do this, but put on your backpack and just start going over deadfall. Okay? Right? And then, you've sat on the log, you've rolled over the log, you've stepped on three or four logs, you've traversed the logs, right? I mean, you've done all this, and it's no longer as fun as what you thought when the trail was really easy to follow. All right, so here we are. Here we are. Say, is planning important?
Yes.
Do you really believe that?
Yes.
You really believe that? I mean, wouldn't it be a lot more effective and efficient if we could just stay on this trail? Yeah? Okay. Well, we spend such little time in the real estate business planning on where we're going. Is it any wonder that we get tired, off track, and not as effective and efficient? You want an epiphany that I've had lately? We all have the same amount of time. So it's wow. See, no one's given more time. They're just more effective with the time they have, right? Can planning make us more effective and efficient? Okay. You know what's so cool about our business is that we wear all these hats. You think that's cool? It actually is. Because right now, we're the CEO of our business. We get to grab the wheel and decide where we're going. I have found an amazing video from John F. Kennedy, and he's describing 7 years before we got there, the reason and the why the United States would be the first country to get to the moon. He had to convince the American people that it was the right thing to do, that it was worth the sacrifice, and he, in great detail, described everything that was necessary and needed to obtain that objective. So listen closely as he first announces his plan for getting to the moon.
We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding. Yet the vows of this nation can only be fulfilled if we in this nation are first, and therefore we intend to be first. In short, our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort, to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men, and to become the world's leading spacefaring nation. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people. For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force for good or ill depends on man. And only if the United States occupies a position of preeminence can we help decide whether this new ocean will be a sea of peace or a new terrifying theater of war. I do not say that we should or will go unprotected against the hostile misuse of space any more than we go unprotected against the hostile use of land or sea. But I do say that space can be explored and mastered without feeding the fires of war, without repeating the mistakes that man has made in extending his writ around this globe of ours. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind, and its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. Even though I realize that this is, in some measure, an act of faith and vision, for we do not now know what benefits await us. But if I were to say, my fellow citizens, that we shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from the control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, the length of this football field, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times more than have ever been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth, re-entering the atmosphere at speeds of over 25,000 miles per hour, causing heat about half that on the temperature of the sun, almost as hot as it is here today, and do all this, and do all this, and do it right, and do it first before this decade is out, then we must be bold.
Why did America need to get to the moon first?
For national,
What was his, for what?
national security.
For national security. Because it was there? Bragging rights. Okay. All right, all good answers. It was to keep the space safe. That to not have it be what? A place of war. Because at the time, the Soviet Union, right, was considering launching weapons of war into space. Now, this is 1961 or 2, okay? 7 years before we even got there. Now, what was his plan? What was his vision? How did he have a way to accomplish this?
Not yet.
He even said some of the alloys have what? Not yet been invented. Talk about a statement of faith in the people who are going to make this happen. I know you don't know how to do it yet, but I believe you will, and I know you can because we're going to go do it. Did he have other details to his plan? Yes, of course he did. What else? What else did he say? The size of the rocket, the kind of power it would have, right? Yes. What was going to go along this journey? Survival, food. What else was needed? What would it do? It would go where? Leave the earth and go where? To the moon, and then do what? Come back how? Safely. It would return safely. Even though we did not know exactly how to do it yet, one of my favorite words, he had a vision and a plan on what he wanted to do. Now, what's tragic is he wasn't around to see it actually happen. But he is the one who started with the plan. Now, folks, if that does not inspire you to get better about authoring your story, choosing where you want to go, and getting committed and mapping the milestone markers along the way, I don't know what else will do it. But I'll tell you this, it is up to you. It's up to you. Jerry Sloan, great NBA coach, said one time in an interview, after Karl Malone and John Stockton and Jeff Hornacek had just lost a game they were supposed to win. And he said, "It's not my job to motivate them." Okay. So, it's up to you. And the beauty about this is it's a clean slate. All right. We made plans back in January. We should be at least 25 to 30% on our way. We should have set mile markers and some kind of milestones to indicate whether we were on path. And now is a chance for us to step back and say, do I have my why we want to go? Remember, he said, why is the United States going? Did he say why after? Did he say what we're going to do and then say why? Didn't he begin with why? Isn't that the top of our visual plan? Isn't that the first thing we talked about was our purpose, our reason? And it can't be just to make money. It's what the money can do. It's inspiring you. It's more outward, not inward. Not what I want, but what I could give others. That's the why. We begin with that. So I want to give you time to think about, is that accurate? Is it in focus enough? If it isn't, get it in focus. Find the adjective to describe it. And then look at those strategies down that chart and ask yourselves, one, are these the strategies that will get me there? Am I confident in them? Or do I need to pivot and change and have other strategies? Are you guys ready to change your world again? You know, I've been saying in the marketing department, why do we do this? And I'm being teased slightly about it because I kind of say, guess what we're doing? We are changing the world. And it's so funny, the whole world. I mean, you know, there's 8 billion people. And here in Berkshire Hathaway, in our marketing department, in this company, we're changing the world. Guess what? Changing my world. I mean, that is the one I live in.